The project zone contains two fundamental windows. There's the track list as well as the event display. The track list we've already talked about a little bit, but this is where you add tracks and do things like arm them for recording and turn on the monitor button, or clicking that little E button will reveal the channel strip settings for an individual track. Then when you've recorded something onto a track, then those events will show up in the event display, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But at the top of the project zone, you'll find the timeline, and the timeline can be customized to show you bars and beats, which is what we're looking at now. Here's measure 1, and since we're in 4/4 time, there's 1, then count 2, 3, 4, then bar 2, and then count 2, 3, 4, and so on. But if you don't want to be working in a musical timeline, or you have the need to switch between a musical timeline and a time timeline, then you can come over to this little drop-down menu and choose what you want the timeline to be viewed in. In other words, it can be set to seconds, or it can be set to time code, which is very useful for when you're working in a film scoring or other time-based setting. And then to get back to bars and beats, just click on that. It also contains the locators, and the locators are so critical that we're going to talk about those in a whole separate video. But another nice thing is this little search button. As you start to add more and more tracks to your project, it might be tough to find individual tracks, which is what the search button is for. If we wanted to look for a track named audio, we can just type in audio, and you'll notice that any track with the name audio in it will appear in the list. And so since we only have one audio track in this project and its name is audio, it's important to remember that the search only works on the track name itself. Then it will find all of the tracks that have the term audio in its name. If we were looking for a track that contained MIDI, then it's going to find just that one MIDI track that we have in our project. But if we were to change the name of the audio track to something like bass, and then we wanted to find a track or tracks with the name bass in it, we can just type bass and it will find that. And the event display is where you're going to be doing a lot of your editing to the material that you have recorded onto these tracks. To show you what I mean, let's just add a blank space to this MIDI track. And I'm going to do that by using the Draw tool. Now I can get to the Draw tool up here in the toolbar. It's the little thing that looks like a pencil right here. You'll notice that if you hover over that, it gives you the name of the tool. It says Draw, and then it says 8. So what you can do is you can call up the Draw tool by clicking the 8 key on your computer keyboard. That's the 8 on the top row of buttons, not the keypad buttons, but the top row of buttons. And it turns it into that Draw tool. But you can also right or control click in the event display down here, and it will call up all of those same tools. So that's how a lot of people do the editing, is by using that right or control click option instead, because it makes it really easy to get back to your main tool, which is the object selection tool, or you can select any of these other tools like the mute tool, and then if you just hold down the right or control click again and let go, it goes back to the object selection tool. So I'm going to grab that Draw tool. I'm just going to draw in a blank event. Then I'm going to right or control click quickly and then lift off, and now I can drag that event to any track that can receive MIDI information. In other words, I can't drag that event to the audio track because audio tracks can't use MIDI, but instrument tracks can. Then I could also choose some other things like the split tool to split that event up into different parts, and then right or control click quickly, and then I can drag those other things around. Or I can undo those by hitting Controller Command Z multiple times. So I'm going to undo all of those edits that I just made. And it's also nice to be able to colorize not only the tracks, but the events themselves. So let's just draw in some more blank media or blank area. I'm going to do a little bit of the bass track and draw in a blank segment for the instrument track. Then I'm going to right or control click quickly to get back to object selection. And then with this track selected, if I go to my first tab, you'll see this little caret off to the side of the track name. If I click on that, then I can choose different colors. So let's say that MIDI track will be this kind of sky blue, and then the bass track, we will change that to red, and then this Halion Sonic track, we will change that to green. So you can set up the track colors themselves, And then the associated events that you record onto those tracks will also be colorized, and that will help you differentiate which one is which on the project window. And it's also good to know that you can change how much room there is for the track list as well as the event display. If you hover in between them, your mouse pointer eventually turns into these two little vertical lines with arrows on the ends of them, and that way you can change how large or how small the track list is, and that will give you even more room for the events to be displayed. So sometimes you actually have it so short that you can't see the full name of the track and you can't see all the track control buttons. So if that ever happens, make sure that you don't have them hidden by having too narrow a track list. And next, let's talk about the write zone.